A kitchen remodel is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make in your home, and it's also one of the easiest to get wrong. It's not usually the obvious mistakes that trip people up. It's the features that look incredible in a showroom, that photograph beautifully for a listing, that get thousands of likes on a design post, and then, 6 months after you move in, quietly become the thing you complain about every single day. The tricky part is that none of these choices feel like mistakes when you're making them. You're standing in a showroom under perfect lighting, everything is spotless, and the salesperson is telling you exactly what you want to hear. Nobody shows you the version of that same kitchen after 2 years of real cooking, real kids, and real dishes piling up. That's the gap we're closing today. We're counting down 10 of the most common kitchen regrets, starting with the small daily annoyances and working our way up to the single most expensive mistake to undo after the build is already finished. Stick around for that last one. It's the one that quietly ruins more kitchens than any finish or fixture ever could. Let's get into it. Number 10. Pot filler faucets. Let's start with one that looks impressive but rarely earns its keep. A pot filler mounts on the wall right above your range and swings out on a hinge, so in theory, you can fill a pasta pot without ever leaving the stove. It reads as a professional kitchen detail, the kind of thing that signals a serious remodel budget the moment someone walks in. Here's the problem. Filling the pot was never actually the hard part. What actually takes effort, and what a pot filler does absolutely nothing to help with, is carrying that same pot back to the sink once it's full of hot water. You still have to make that trip, every time, with a heavier and more dangerous load than before. There's also a practical risk most people don't think about until it happens. You're running a dedicated water line up inside a wall that sits directly above your range and backsplash. If that connection ever develops even a small leak, that's about the worst possible spot for water damage to go unnoticed. If you already have one installed, it's not something to panic about. But if you're still deciding, that same money is almost always better spent somewhere you'll actually notice every day. Number 9. Single basin sinks. A wide, deep single bowl looks clean and minimal, but in daily use, it forces you into constant compromise. Washing dishes and prepping vegetables can't happen at the same time because there's nowhere to separate the two. You end up either stacking dirty pans right next to the produce you're about to eat, or stopping one task entirely to finish the other. A double basin sink, especially in a 60-40 or 70-30 split, solves this cleanly. You can let a pot soak on the larger side while rinsing produce on the smaller one. The catch is timing. Retrofitting a single basin sink into a double bowl later isn't a simple swap. With stone or quartz counters, it often means cutting an entirely new opening. And because a sink typically lasts 10 to 15 years before it's replaced, choosing single basin at the start locks that daily friction in for a decade or more. Number 8. Open shelving. It's easy to see the appeal. Open shelves feel light and airy, and in a styled photo, with curated pottery, a trailing plant, a neat stack of matching dishware, they look genuinely beautiful. But there's a real difference between 1 or 2 open shelves used sparingly and replacing the bulk of your upper storage with them. Kitchens are working rooms, full of steam, oil particles, and fine dust. Without cabinet doors acting as a barrier, every item on an open shelf becomes a target. After just a few months, plates and glasses that once looked pristine can start to feel faintly sticky to the touch. Then there's what you might call the curation tax. Open shelves put absolutely everything on display, including the mismatched mug from a work conference or the chipped bowl you keep meaning to replace. To make the look actually work, you're forced to hide everything else out of sight, which quietly cancels out the extra storage you thought you were gaining. A simple gut check. If someone knocked on your door unannounced right now, would those shelves look presentable without you scrambling to tidy first? If the honest answer is no, they're asking more from you than they're giving back. Number 7. Matte black fixtures. There's no denying the appeal on camera. Matte black reads as sophisticated and modern, and it creates striking contrast against white cabinetry or light marble counters. But the very thing that makes it look so clean in photos, a uniform, completely non-reflective surface, is exactly what makes every water drop, mineral deposit, and soap splash stand out in real life. In homes with hard water especially, those light gray mineral spots show up almost immediately, which means you're wiping the faucet down after nearly every single use just to keep it looking the way it did on install day. And the finish itself is fragile. Harsh cleaners or abrasive sponges can leave permanent scratches, and because there's no glossy coating on top to hide imperfections, once it's scratched, there's no buffing it back out. None of this means black fixtures are off the table entirely. Satin or brushed finishes in warmer metals, bronze, brass, hide fingerprints far more effectively and actually develop an attractive patina as they age instead of visibly degrading. Save true matte black for surfaces that don't get touched or splashed constantly, and lean on more forgiving finishes for anything you'll touch multiple times a day. Number 6. Tile countertops. At first glance, tile countertops don't seem like they'd cause much trouble. But the grout between the tiles is doing a lot of quiet damage over time. Every single joint becomes a landing zone for crumbs, grease, and bacteria. Roughly 30% of tile countertops develop visible grout failure within their first decade. Regrouting typically runs $120 to $250, and even stepping up to a more resilient epoxy grout only buys you an extra 5 to 7 years before the cycle starts over again. A seamless slab surface, quartz or solid surface, sidesteps the entire problem by removing the grout lines altogether. There's simply no seam for grime to collect in. Number 5. Handleless cabinets. Handleless, push-to-open cabinet doors look incredible in a design rendering, completely flat, uninterrupted surfaces with no hardware breaking up the lines. In practice, that seamless look comes with a very real daily trade-off. Since there's no pull to grab, you have to physically press on the door front every time you want to open a cabinet, which means every cabinet becomes a magnet for fingerprints. In households with kids, small, sticky handprints appear the moment sunlight hits the surface. The mechanical side has its own wear and tear story too. The push latches need occasional adjustment over time, and they can fail outright if they get bumped out of alignment. You don't have to abandon the look entirely. Going handle-free on just a handful of cabinets, a pantry door, a trash pull-out, and using simple, low-profile hardware everywhere else gets you most of the clean aesthetic, without the constant fingerprint chase. Number 4. Microwave above the range. Mounting the microwave directly above the stove became the default setup in a lot of smaller kitchens, largely because it's efficient. It frees up counter space, and it's often sold as a matched package with the range. Two problems tend to surface once you've actually lived with it. First, purely visual. It puts a large, button-covered appliance right in the visual center of the kitchen. Second, and more important, most of these combined units simply don't ventilate as well as a dedicated range hood built for the job. Cooking smells linger longer. Grease settles onto nearby cabinets faster. The kitchen never quite reaches that fully clean, reset feeling after a meal. A dedicated range hood over the stove, paired with the microwave relocated somewhere else entirely, gives you meaningfully better airflow and a cleaner-looking wall at the same time. Number 3. Statement range hoods. A large, sculptural range hood can be a genuinely stunning centerpiece, but turning the hood into the star of the show comes with real risk. If it's oversized relative to the room, it doesn't just stand out. It visually dominates the whole space and throws the balance off. And because custom plaster or metal hoods are genuinely expensive to build, swapping one out later, when your taste shifts or the next trend arrives, can be prohibitively costly. There's also a practical concern hiding behind the good looks. Some of the most striking statement hoods conceal underpowered fans because the budget went toward the decorative shell rather than the mechanics doing the actual work. Skimping on the fan to afford a more dramatic exterior quietly defeats the entire purpose. Good kitchen design comes down to hierarchy. If the counters, the cabinets, the lighting, and the hood are all shouting for attention at once, nothing in the room ends up feeling harmonious. Number 2. Soffits above cabinets. Those boxed-in sections above your upper cabinets were originally there for a practical reason, concealing pipes or ductwork. The problem is, they tend to age poorly. Trade surveys show visible warping or moisture staining showing up in as little as 12 to 20 years. In the meantime, grease and dust collect steadily along the edge where the soffit meets the cabinet top, turning that narrow gap into an ongoing cleaning headache. And when it does come time to remodel, removing a soffit is rarely just cosmetic. Demolition frequently uncovers ductwork or wiring nobody accounted for. The payoff, though, tends to be worth it. Eliminating the soffit opens up full-height cabinet storage, room for better lighting, and a kitchen that immediately feels more open and more modern. And now, number 1, too many mixed finishes. Here we are. The regret that doesn't look like a single mistake at all, but is actually the sum of dozens of small ones made without a unified plan. And by a wide margin, it's the most expensive to fix once the kitchen is already built. It happens gradually. In the excitement of a remodel, it's easy to fall in love with 10 different beautiful things at the showroom. Each individual choice looks great in isolation. The trouble starts when you bring them all home together. Picture a kitchen with 3 different countertop materials, 4 separate metal finishes, and 2-tone cabinetry all competing in the same room. Instead of reading as curated, the space starts to feel visually chaotic and restless. The fix has to start before a single tile is purchased. Begin with a core concept, a specific mood you're actually trying to create. Once you know the answer, commit to 1 or 2 hero materials and cap yourself at a maximum of 2 accent finishes. The real secret behind professional-feeling design isn't variety at all, it's repetition. Repeating a finish throughout the space creates a visual rhythm that lets the eye travel comfortably across the room, instead of getting stuck on a jarring detail. None of this means everything has to match perfectly. Cohesive doesn't mean identical. It just means every element in the room is having a genuine conversation with the others, instead of shouting to be noticed on its own. Look back across all 10 of these, and one thread runs through every single one. Regret comes from designing for how a kitchen looks on day 1, not for how it actually gets lived in over the next 10 years. Trends fade, photos age, but the daily friction of a sink that fights you, a shelf you have to dust every week, or a finish that shows every fingerprint, that doesn't fade at all. Before you commit to any finish, fixture, or layout decision in your own remodel, it's worth pausing on one simple question. Will this still work for me in 10 years? Or does it only work in the photo taken on the day it was installed?